My mom stole my prom dress, but little did she know. My mom was a teen pregnancy when she had me. She worked hard to raise me as a single mom, but always threw it in my face how I'd ruined her prom and her dreams. I did whatever I could to please her, getting good grades, doing little pick-me-up surprises for her, but she was never satisfied. She'd be happy for a minute before going back to her old ways. Fast forward, it was my senior year in high school, and I finally got a boyfriend. During this time my mom got a boyfriend, as well, a guy half her age. Apparently, he was an influencer, and she being a fan slid into his DMs, and the two of them hit it off. Things got serious between them because by month 4 they were engaged. About the same time, my boyfriend asked me to prom. He went out of his way to bake me a heart-shaped cake that read "Will you be my prom date?" and decorated his backyard with balloons and flower petals to give me the cake. His mom and dad helped him with the decorations and took pictures of us. Then we all had cake together. I was so excited. I went home, thinking, my mom's been in a better mood since she started her relationship. So, I asked her if she would help me buy my prom dress. Her face immediately hardened into a scowl, and she said, "I can't afford that right now with all my wedding expenses." Then she suggested my boyfriend's parents pay for the dress. They had already done so much, I didn't feel right asking them for something like that. So I got a part-time job. I worked really hard on the weekends, and 2 days during the week. Finally I had saved up enough money to buy my dress. I found an old vintage dress on Craigslist that was reasonably priced. Just needed some work. I even found a seamstress online who was willing to restore the dress by adding the missing embellishments to the gown. For context, Elsa is my all-time favorite Disney princess, and while prom is in the spring I wanted to look like glistening snowflakes falling in the front and the first buds of spring flowers in the back. The train was. My dress was silver with hints of baby pink and yellow flowers for the budding spring on the train, so it was perfect. When the seamstress finished the dress it was more than I could have dreamed it was. About this time my mom insisted on knowing the prom date so she could book her wedding around it. I told her the date, but when she had me help her fold invitations, I saw that the date was the exact same day as the prom. I said, "Mom, wait, I thought you were booking your wedding on a different day." "That's all that was available," she said dismissively. "Besides, you'll have plenty of time to go to your prom afterwards." But her party didn't end until 9 p.m., which meant my boyfriend and I would be an hour late. My mom paid for most of the wedding by herself, with some help from my grandma. She even had to help cover the groom's tux, but told me since I have a job I could buy my own bridesmaid dress. When I told her I'd spent most of my savings on my prom dress, she began screaming and shouting at me about how selfish I was, and that I knew her wedding was coming up. Why didn't I budget for a bridesmaid dress I had no idea I was supposed to pay for? So I worked some extra shifts and managed to purchase a bridesmaid dress of her liking. A bright celadon green dress with hardly any sparkles on the bodice. Things seemed to calm down until the dress fitting. Her dress was okay, with some beading at the bodice and a mermaid skirt that bulged in the belly area. Despite reassuring her that the dress she picked was beautiful and she'd be beautiful on her big day, she left the dress shop in tears, hating her dress and freaking out because she didn't have time to buy a new one. When we got home, my prom dress had arrived from the seamstress. Both her friends and my grandma, who were there, all insisted I try it on for them. So I did. The room lit up with excitement at my silver Elsa-inspired glitter gown. My mother looked like she'd swallowed a frog as everyone else cheered and gushed over my gown. Immediately she called the seamstress and demanded she fill the gown with more beading and sequins. The seamstress told her it couldn't be done under such short notice. Her best bet was to buy another dress off the rack. She started crying and pleading with her, and promising to pay whatever the cost to get it done. Finally the seamstress agreed for a hefty price tag. The day of the wedding came, and I invited my boyfriend, since we'd have to leave in the middle of the reception to attend prom. Later that morning, Mom went to pick up her gown, which the seamstress managed to finish the night before, shortly after midnight. Things were pretty chill until she came home screaming and cursing, with no dress. Apparently my mother had run out of money and couldn't pay for the alterations. She pretended not to know what the negotiated price was, and began crying and doing anything she could to get the dress. But the seamstress refused to hand it over. My mom called her fiancé for help, but he was sobering up from partying all night and wouldn't answer the phone. Finally my grandma stepped in and offered to cover half of the alterations. But my mother didn't have enough money for the other half. Then taking one look at me, she walked into my room and grabbed my prom dress. I said, "Wait, Mom, that's my prom dress. You can have it back after the ceremony." We're already over an hour late and we need to get going. My grandma started arguing with her about the dress, but my mother kept insisting she wasn't going to do anything but borrow it for a few hours. The dress barely fit and the beading looked like it was trying to come loose around her midsection and cleavage. I was horrified. The dress would literally come apart at the seams as she walked down the aisle. My boyfriend kept reassuring me everything would be fine. We got to the church where the groom was still drunk, and my mom walked down the aisle in my dress. Afterwards they took some photos, and she received rave compliments about my gown. By the time we reached the reception venue, I asked her, "Mom, where's your reception dress to change into?" She frowned at me as if she didn't know what I was talking about. "What reception dress? I don't have one, but I need my prom dress tonight." I panicked. "Oh my God, I think my wedding is a bigger emergency than your prom. You can just wear that dress." Reminder, my bridesmaid dress was a hideous shade of celadon green with hardly any beading anywhere. I was overwhelmed with distraught. My boyfriend and I left. We didn't even stay for the entrance walk, and I don't think my mom even noticed. We went to prom, and I was stuck in the celadon green dress all night. I barely had any fun watching girls dance the night away and specially picked out gowns for their special night. It was heartbreaking despite my boyfriend reassuring me I looked beautiful no matter what. When I got home I saw my dress returned to me on my bed. The zipper was broken, the bust was stretched out of shape, and several of the beading was missing. My mom managed to leave me a voicemail saying, "See, I gave it back to you, but you weren't at my reception to get your dress." "Okay, Mom, I did it," I heard her say before the message ended. I was so angry I didn't really speak much to her. At first I just threw the dress in the back of my closet. I told my boyfriend what happened and the condition the dress was in. He asked me, "Can you get it fixed?" I said, "Yeah, but what's the point?" "So you can have photographic evidence of what the dress is supposed to look like." I couldn't help but laugh and decided to go along with it. I got the dress repaired once more and my boyfriend and I took some really nice photos together and had a private dinner afterwards to celebrate. I shared the photos online and the dress started to go viral with offers to buy it. Apparently it was a rare vintage designer gown. People were offering so much money for the dress that eventually I sold it. It was enough money to cover my first 2 years in college. I told my grandma, who couldn't help but stick it to my mom about my newfound wealth. My mother suddenly called me at the dorm claiming that part of the money was hers. If she hadn't worn it, I would have never gotten the second alterations and posted the photos. I told her she nearly destroyed the gown, and I was not sharing the money. Infuriated, she screamed, "I can prove I wore the gown first and that my ungrateful daughter stole it from me." "Go ahead," I said, knowing I had all the proof of purchase I needed. The next morning my mom flooded my post with counter photos of herself wearing the dress on her wedding day. To my surprise, when I read the comments, I balked at how many people claimed her dress didn't fit right, saying it looked like a cheap imitation, calling her a fraud. For the next month my mother was arguing with strangers, calling her delusional. But the final straw was when someone told her there's no way she could fit into one of these designer custom gowns, because the original dressmaker only made them in certain sizes. Infuriated and embarrassed, she took the photos down and never said another word about it.